Hello, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Vision of Being podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about a subject that is really difficult, but I feel really compelled to share my journey and my experience with this. Today, I would like to share with you my abortion story and why I am now pro-life. So let me start from the beginning. When I was living in Los Angeles, so just to give you some context, I was in California. I lived there about the past 7 years before moving out about 6 months ago. I won't reveal the time that this happened just to protect the privacy of my former partner. But just to give you some context, I was in Los Angeles at the time when the abortion happened. I was in a serious, committed relationship with my boyfriend at the time. We were living together. We'd been living together for about 6 months when this happened. So, yes, I became pregnant accidentally. We were being careful, but of course we could have been even more careful. And so I became pregnant, and for about a week during the pregnancy, after I found out, we thought that we were going to keep it. We even told our parents, and I told a few friends, which in hindsight, that's why you don't tell people right away, because things happen. Miscarriages happen. In this case, an abortion happened. And so, that was definitely not a fun process of having to then tell our parents and some of our friends that actually I had decided not to keep it. And I say I, not we, because it was my choice. My partner wanted to keep the baby, but I decided not to. And that's because after a few days of knowing that I was pregnant, I started waking up at between 3 and 4 in the morning, like the most odd hour of the night. And I was waking up and having intense panic attacks. And I've never had panic attacks in my whole life. And so I didn't even know what that felt like until I started having them in the middle of the night. And I would wake up, and this was for at least a few days in a row, and I would wake up and would just be hyperventilating, crying, like so uncontrollably crying, and just feeling like I couldn't breathe and having a very intense pain in my chest, like really deep pain in my sternum. And that was what a panic attack is, and I guess what it feels like. And so I took this as a sign that this wasn't right, that this wasn't meant to be, that my body was telling me and giving me signals that I shouldn't do this. And so after really sitting with those emotions and the fear and these panic attacks, I determined that having an abortion would be the right thing to do, would be the responsible or smart thing to do, is what my logical brain thought. And so I went through with the abortion, and I ended up actually having the procedure done under general anesthesia because, I found out that it was even an option. And once I found that out, I knew that that's what I wanted to do, because I knew that this was something that really had the potential to traumatize me. I wasn't taking this as a light or flippant manner. I knew that this was a huge deal. And I also know that I'm a sensitive person. And so, yes, when the opportunity presented itself to be fully under anesthesia, that's how I decided to go through with the procedure. So the procedure comes and goes, and naturally the day of and day after, I feel very sick. I believe after any kind of miscarriage, abortion, whether it's with the pill, a more traditional procedure abortion, or even a natural miscarriage, it really feels like you have the flu. You have a fever, you feel very, very sick. I mean, your body's literally expelling life that started building inside of you. And so, yes, I was very expectedly sick for the first couple of days and just crying all day, and was in a really dark place, as you can imagine. And so the next few months were really difficult, still processing, crying about this life that I didn't keep. And I believe that I was about somewhere between 6 and 7 weeks along when I had the procedure done. And even before having the procedure done, I really had started to connect with this child. You know, I feel like her. I feel like it was a girl. I feel like she was a girl. And she had told me that her name was Lily. And I had never thought about Lily as a name before. Lilies are my favorite flowers. I have them tattooed on me. But it had never occurred to me to name a child this name. And once I started being in communication with her, when I found out I was pregnant, this name just bubbled up from really deep inside of me. It felt like an echo almost coming from my gut and finding its way into my mind. And that's how I knew her name was Lily. And even though she was so small and was just an essence, I could feel her energy. She told me her name. And I even had conversations with her before going through with the procedure, telling her what was happening, asking her permission. And, you know, perhaps it was my subconscious mind giving me some peace of mind, imagining that I was talking to this unborn being. So take it as you will, but I really feel that I already had a connection with this child, even though she was probably the size of a grain of rice by the time the abortion happened. And so I expected to feel intense emotions and upset the first few months. I knew that was coming. But what I didn't foresee was that even over 6 months later, I was still being really choked and held with hard emotions of feelings of regret and pain months and months later. And this is the part that I didn't expect and that they don't tell you about, is that I didn't get over this abortion. And I'm still not over what happened. I don't know if I'll ever be over the pain of losing a child, of knowing that it was my choice to not keep this baby. And just to be plain and simple, living with the fact of knowing that you murdered your child, those are heavy feelings to live with. And that's what I feel like we aren't prepared for, because abortion in society today is seen strangely as this positive thing, as women's rights, as my body, my choice. And we saw this really clearly when the Roe versus Wade, got rolled back, and all the backlash that came from that, and the women's protests and rallies defending abortion rights. And to think that we're so dead set on defending the right to murder our children, I feel like we're being brainwashed. And I feel like I was brainwashed by society into thinking that this was something that was okay, that was a choice I had, and I wasn't told about the long-lasting implications of this and the very deep-rooted and horrible feelings that I'm still having to live with today. So many celebrities and our friends were all so for abortion, and that's how I feel that it's been for years and years. So there was years of social conditioning leading up to this point of me making my decision. I feel that once I went through with the abortion, I was all of a sudden broken out of this shell of numbness that we're conditioned in our society to believe that this is okay. That going into our wombs and ripping out unborn children is a freedom or a right. And this is wrong. I mean, the fact that the Constitution doesn't say that we can have abortions because it's protecting unborn children, and the fact people got mad that unborn children are not just being legally allowed to be killed. And then when you think about it, especially with further and further on the abortion goes, because in some states and areas you can get one pretty late, but even no matter how big the baby was, if you think about it, what is so wrong with having a constitution that defends not having doctors go up inside of a woman, take out a baby, which they may have to dismember inside of her because it won't fit out anymore, and then take out the baby? And where do these babies go that are being taken out of the wombs? Thrown away as a medical biohazard or with medical other garbage. They're being thrown away. We are throwing our children away. And we're thinking that this is women's right? Well, what if the child inside is a woman? What about her rights? And the whole argument of my body, my choice, it doesn't make any sense to me because it's actually not your body. You're literally killing and sucking out a completely different body. This isn't even your body. So it makes no sense to me in that regard. Really, where the whole my body, my choice movement belongs is in the medicalized birthing industry, where women are being forced to lay on their back, having IVs in them. They can't get up, move around, eat, drink. C-section rates are going through the roof. People are having babies pulled out of them. There's so much obstetric violence that's happening. So actually, my body, my choice should really be directed to the birthing industry because that's where it actually applies. In abortion, it's not your body. You're literally ripping out an unborn body that's not yours. And I feel like so many people are for abortion because it's wedged into the liberal and progressive agenda. It's if you're a Democrat, if you're somebody who considers themselves progressive and is for gay rights and gay marriage and climate change, it's like all of these different topics are just put onto the left wing, the left side, and it's thought that you have to subscribe to one thought pattern or another. Either you're Republican or conservative and you're against abortion and against gay marriage, or you're liberal and you're for abortion and for gay marriage. But the thing is, we're all humans. None of us are going to perfectly fit into a left or a right category. So I'm just here to tell you that you can be for gay marriage and you can be totally against abortion. They are not in any way in the same category. So it's like we don't just have to go with, I'm a liberal, I'm a progressive, so I have to believe that abortion is okay. You don't have to believe that. We can pick and choose what we believe to be true because we're all individual humans. And I just hope that we can start to wake up to the fact of what we're actually doing in abortion. Because abortion, and I'm sure if you went to a women's rally, it's a lot of uplifting energy and women's rights and, we're being progressive and all of these different things, all of these positive morale that was at these rallies. But the thing is you go into a Planned Parenthood, you go into when the abortions are happening, and it's a very sad story in a Planned Parenthood, let me tell you. People are crying. Some people are sobbing. This is the worst day of people's lives when you're going to have the abortion. So it's one thing to make an Instagram post saying that you support abortion, and it's another thing to be in the Planned Parenthood about to have the procedure done, perhaps with somebody that you love, and knowing that you'll never get to meet this baby, that you're going to be very sick, and that you're going to live with this for the rest of your life. Planned Parenthood and where these abortions are being done is a starkly different atmosphere than a women's rally or the sentiment that is behind abortion. There is nothing liberating or freedom-filled about being at a Planned Parenthood and having an abortion. It's quite possibly the worst day of your life. And there's no feeling of liberation at all when you're in a Planned Parenthood or when you're having an abortion. Not at all. And I feel that this actually stems from a much deeper root issue in our society today. And it really ties in with the casual and throwaway hookup culture that is now pervasive through society. Now that birth control is available and abortion is available, women and people in general aren't thinking as much of who they're sharing this sacred sexual energy with. And it feels like the importance of sex and actually how powerful sex is being totally diminished in society today. People are having sex with people who they would never want to be the father or mother of their children because they know that abortion is legal, there's birth control, there's no consequences to their actions, and if worst comes to worst, they can just rip the baby out of the womb and there'll be no consequences. And so people are sleeping with each other who they would never do if they were actually faced with the reality that they might have a child with this person. And really, this is in society now, it's like we're living in a world now where we're treating our bodies as disposable, as each other as disposable, and even as our babies as disposable objects. And I truly believe that if abortion was illegal, people would stop to think about what it means to be sharing this sacred energy with somebody, what really sex, how powerful it can be. And do I want to be like this person? Do I want to turn into this person because we're sharing energy? And do I want this person to be the father of my children? And I think that if people had to stop and were forced to make these decisions, that people would have a lot more thought behind who they choose to have sex with, which actually would have such a great impact on mental health because it's not talked about that much that having sex with all of these different random partners is so horrible for our mental health. And not just our mental health, but also on a very chemical rooted level. Because when we have sex with somebody, we're releasing high levels of oxytocin, which is the bonding chemical. And when you have sex over and over again with different people and you're releasing this oxytocin and then you don't end up bonding with the person, nothing happens, then your brain gets really confused of what's going on and it becomes more difficult to actually bond with people. So we're not meant to have all of these frivolous sexual partners. And it's under the guise of, once again, women's freedom that now we can have sex with whoever we want because of birth controls and abortion. But it's not in our nature to be having sex and sharing the sexual energy with all of these people. And yes, I do not believe in abortion any longer. And I really do honestly believe that if abortion was illegal, I would have never have had to have gotten an abortion in the first place. What I didn't realize until months after the abortion actually was that even though it wasn't a conscious thought in the forefront of my mind, I actually did know deep in the back of my mind that if we did accidentally get pregnant, that I could have an abortion. It really wasn't a thought that I consciously thought, which is why I think I didn't realize this until months later after really thinking on this for so much time at that point. And so, yes, I really do believe that if abortion was illegal, I would have been forced to really think through, like, do I want this to be the father of my children? And if not, I better really be freaking careful because there's no plan C. I knew that there was a plan C. And even like I said, it was in the back of my mind from this societal conditioning that I had the plan C. And if there was no plan C, I think I would have put a lot more thought into plan A and B. Bottom line is that abortion is murder. There's no way around that. And the societal norm that killing our children is okay and scarring women who have had these abortions is a right is not a society that I want to live in or that I want my children to grow up in. I want the dialogue between me and my daughter to be, if you get pregnant, you can keep it. I don't ever want my daughter to have to feel like if she gets pregnant, she has to make the choice between killing her child or not. Like, let that sink in for a moment. I hope that by listening to this, it helps you to make better, more informed decisions about your sexual health. This was something I didn't realize I would feel this way until I actually had to go through it. And so if this can spare anyone from having to go through this, whether that means keeping the child or just being more careful in general about protection and about choosing who you're going to be with, then that's all I can hope for. Because when I really had to sit with this decision that I've made, that's when I was told that I had to share this message and that it was the only thing that I could do to start to heal and to start to try and make this better was to spread the message that this isn't something you want to go through. This isn't something that's okay in society. And I think that an entirely new dialogue around sex, sacred sexuality, and choosing your partners wisely and being very careful with your sexual energy, because a frivolous decision doesn't give you the right to murder. And I just would like to end on a note of, I do not have all the answers. I'm not saying that abortion should never be okay in any circumstance. There are medically necessary abortions. And I'm not saying that I have a perfect vision on if you were a rape or incest victim, if you should have an abortion or not. But in reality, that rape and incest only account for 1% of all abortions. So right now, I'm not speaking to rape or incest victims or people who needed medically necessary abortions. I'm talking about the over 95% of abortions that were by choice. And I'm not saying that I have an answer if Plan B should be okay. Of course, I'm totally for birth control because it's a preventative measure. But what I am saying is that out of these 95% of cases or more, the overwhelming majority that's not rape, incest, or medically necessary, I don't think it's okay. I don't think they should be allowed, because the emotional wounds that I'll have to live with forever, knowing that I killed my baby. It's not okay to murder just because they have no say or ability to fight back because they're so small. Murder is murder. You created a life and then you took a life away. That's what abortion is. And once again, I hope this is something that you never have to go through. And if you have gone through this, or you've gone through a miscarriage, if you've lost an unborn child, I am releasing a meditation along with this podcast. They'll come out at the same time. I believe it's about a 20-minute meditation for your womb space. I do the mantra for immortality and chant that over and over so that you can help the unborn child pass on into the immortal, into the spirit realm. And so I hope that that can help you as well. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you've listened to the whole thing and would like to share your story with me, I think that sharing our story helps us heal a little bit more and understand it for ourselves every time that we tell it. So please feel free to contact me and share your story. I would be more than happy to listen and to talk with you about it. Thank you so much. See you soon.